Captain Devin Burns stood motionless on the bridge of the HFY Vigilant, the revelation of Directive Hellfire still ringing in his ears. Around him, his crew remained frozen in shock, the weight of their unwitting participation in genocide settling heavily upon them. Sir Hizexo's voice, usually so confident, now trembled with uncertainty. What do we do now? Devin turned slowly, meeting the eyes of each crew member. He saw in them a reflection of his own turmoil, confusion, horror, and a dawning sense of guilt. I don't know, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. It was the hardest thing he'd ever had to say as a captain. The tactical officer's console suddenly lit up with incoming data. Captain, she said, her voice hollow, we're receiving confirmations. The planet busters. They're reaching their targets. Devin closed his eyes, trying to shut out the reality of what was happening. But he couldn't escape the images his mind conjured. Normal worlds, perhaps still celebrating their victory over the human homeworld a century ago, suddenly and violently extinguished. How many, he asked, dreading the answer. 37 confirmed hits so far, sir. More still incoming. 37 worlds. Billions of lives. All gone in an instant, just like the normal homeworld. And they had been the instrument of this destruction. A choked sob from the communication station broke the tense silence. Devin turned to see the young officer, tears streaming down her face. My family, she said between sobs. They died on New Eden. I thought this would bring them justice. But this isn't justice. What have we done? Her words seemed to break a dam. Suddenly, the bridge erupted in a cacophony of emotions. Some crew members argued vehemently, others wept openly, while a few sat in stunned silence. Enough, Devin's voice cut through the chaos. All eyes turned to him. I know you're all struggling with what we've learned. Believe me, I am too. But right now, we need to focus. We need to think about what comes next. Sir Hizexo said, a note of desperation in her voice. Surely we can't just let this happen. There must be something we can do. Devin nodded slowly. You're right, we can't stand by and do nothing. But we also can't act rashly. President Graves and whoever else is behind this, they've been planning this for who knows how long. We need to be smart about this. He turned to his communications officer. I need you to discreetly reach out to other ship captains. Find out who else might be having doubts about Directive Hellfire. But be careful, we don't know who we can trust. Aye, sir, she replied, wiping away her tears and setting to work with renewed purpose. XO, I want you to go through every byte of data we have on Directive Hellfire. Find out everything you can about these planet busters. There might be a way to stop the ones that haven't hit yet. As his crew set about their tasks, Devin turned back to the view screen. The debris field of the battle still floated silently, a grim reminder of the destruction they'd already wrought. We came here seeking justice for a century-old wrong, he thought. Instead, we've become the instruments of an atrocity beyond imagination. Devin Burns, descendant of a New Eden colonist, captain in the fleet of vengeance, now found himself facing an enemy he never expected: his own government, his own people, blinded by hatred and the lust for power. The day of reckoning had come, but not in the way any of them had anticipated. As the weight of their complicity settled upon them, Devin and his crew faced a new mission to stop the very vengeance they had spent their lives preparing for. Captain Devin Burns hunched over the secure terminal in his quarters, eyes burning from hours of scrutinizing encrypted messages. It had been 3 days since the revelation of Directive Hellfire, and every moment since had been a delicate dance of gathering information and potential allies without arousing suspicion. A soft chime alerted him to a new message. It was from Captain Ray French of the HFY Intrepid, coded in the innocuous language they'd agreed upon. Weather patterns unusual. Considering alternate cruise plans. Advice appreciated. Devin allowed himself a small smile. Another ally. He quickly composed a reply, suggesting a rendezvous to discuss travel options. A knock at his door startled him. Enter, he called, closing the secure channel. His XO, Commander Yuki Tanaka, stepped in, her face drawn with fatigue. Sir, I've completed the analysis of the Planet Buster telemetry. Devon gestured for her to continue. It's not good, sir. The weapons are largely autonomous once launched. They have multiple redundancies and self-repair capabilities. Stopping them, she trailed off, shaking her head. Devon's jaw clenched. We have to find a way, Yuki. How many are still en route? At least a dozen, sir, headed for smaller Normer colonies and outposts. A dozen worlds. Millions more lives hanging in the balance. Devon felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. What about the ones that have already hit, he asked, dreading the answer. Yuki's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Total devastation, sir. The reports are, they're horrific. Entire ecosystems collapsing. Survivors, if there are any, won't last long without immediate aid. Devon stood, pacing the small confines of his quarters. And I bet Graves isn't sending any aid missions, is he? No, sir. Official channels are calling it a regrettable necessity and a final solution to the Normer threat. Devon's fist slammed into the bulkhead, the pain a welcome distraction from the churning in his gut. Final solution, he spat. Do they even hear themselves? Yuki watched him, concern etched on her face. Sir, what's our next move? Devon took a deep breath, centering himself. We need more allies, and we need them fast. Have you had any luck reaching Admiral Jiang? Yuki shook her head. No, sir. All attempts to contact him have been blocked. I'm starting to worry. That he might be in on it, Devon finished grimly. All right, keep trying, but be careful. We can't risk exposing ourselves too soon. A priority alert flashed on Devon's terminal. His blood ran cold as he read the message. Captain, he said, his voice tight, prepare the ship for immediate departure. Covertly. I want us ready to jump in 30 minutes. Yuki straightened, instantly alert. Sir. It's the UHW Dauntless. Captain Lowe just sent out a distress call, said something about refusing orders and being branded a traitor. Then the transmission cut off. Understanding dawned in Yuki's eyes. He refused to fire his planet busters. Devon nodded. And now he's paying the price. We're the closest ship that I know isn't fully on board with Hellfire. We have to help him. But Sir, Yuki said cautiously, if we do this, there's no going back. We'll be declaring ourselves against Graves and Hellfire openly. Devon met her gaze steadily. I know, but if we don't stand up now, who will? This might be our only chance to show others it's possible to resist. Yuki saluted sharply. Understood, sir. We'll be ready in 20. As she left to prepare the ship, Devon turned back to his terminal. He sent out a final, encrypted message to the small network of captains he'd managed to contact. The storm breaks. Dauntless in peril. Vigilant responds. Choose your heading wisely. With that done, he headed for the bridge. The next few hours would determine not just their fate, but potentially the course of human history. They had come to this star system seeking vengeance for humanity. Now they found themselves fighting to save its very soul. As the Vigilant prepared to jump into uncertainty, Devon Burns steeled himself for the battles to come. The war they had trained for was over. A new one, far more complex and morally fraught, was just beginning. The UHW Vigilant dropped out of FTL, claxons blaring as it entered a scene of chaos. Before them, the Dauntless listed heavily, scorch marks marring its hull. Two other ships, the destroyers Relentless and Inexorable, circled it like predators, weapons trained on their wounded prey. Status report, Devon barked, gripping the arms of his command chair. Dauntless has taken heavy damage, sir, his tactical officer reported. Life support is failing. The Relentless and Inexorable are charging weapons for another salvo. Devon's mind raced. They were outgunned, but he couldn't stand by and watch Lowe and his crew be massacred for doing the right thing. Hail the Relentless, he ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of Captain Amelia Khoury. Burns, what are you doing here? This is a restricted operation. Devon met her gaze steadily. Stand down, Amelia. What you're doing is wrong, and you know it. Curry's eyes narrowed. Wrong. We're following orders, Devon. Lowe is a traitor. Don't tell me you've gone soft too. It's not going soft to question immoral orders, Devon countered. Hellfire is genocide, plain and simple. We didn't sign up for this. Spare me your moralizing, Curry spat. Last chance, Burns. Leave now, or you'll share Lowe's fate. The transmission cut off abruptly. Devon turned to his crew, seeing determination mixed with fear on their faces. Red alert, he commanded. Shields up, weapons hot. Prepare to engage. The bridge erupted into action as the Vigilant surged forward, placing itself between the Dauntless and its attackers. Sir, his comms officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the Intrepid. Captain French says she's en route to assist. A glimmer of hope. Tell her to hurry, Devon replied grimly. The space around them lit up as the Relentless and Inexorable opened fire. The Vigilant shuddered under the assault, but its shields held. Return fire, Devon ordered. Target their weapons systems and get a tractor beam on the Dauntless. We're getting them out of here. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Vigilant, designed for speed rather than heavy combat, darted between its opponents, its point defense systems working overtime to intercept incoming missiles. Hull breach on Deck 7, an ensign called out. Emergency force fields holding. Devon gritted his teeth. They couldn't keep this up for long. Status on the Dauntless. Tractor beam engaged, sir. We're pulling them clear, but their life support is critical. They've got minutes at most. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the tactical display. Devon's heart sank, expecting reinforcements for the enemy. But then, sir, it's the Intrepid and the Defiant and Audacious. They're engaging the Relentless and Inexorable. With the arrival of their allies, the tide quickly turned. The Relentless, caught between the Intrepid and Audacious, soon went dark, its weapons disabled. The Inexorable, realizing it was outmatched, jumped to FTL, retreating. Status of the Dauntless, Devon demanded. Life support failing, sir. We need to evacuate them now. Devon nodded. Do it, and prepare sick bay for casualties. As the rescue operations began, Devon allowed himself a moment of relief. They'd won this skirmish, but he knew it was only the beginning. Hours later, with the Dauntless crew safely aboard and the ship limping along under tow, Devon met with the other captains via secure hologram. We've crossed the Rubicon, Captain French of the Intrepid said gravely. Graves will brand us all traitors now. Captain Lowe, his face pale but determined, spoke up. We did the right thing. We have to stop Hellfire, no matter the cost. Devon nodded. Agreed. But we're going to need help. There must be others in the fleet, in the government, who see Hellfire for what it is. And the Normers added Captain Easy's of the Audacious. Those we haven't killed yet. We need to warn them, help them if we can. A heavy silence fell over the group as the enormity of their task sank in. They were now rebels, fighting against their own government, trying to save not just the Normers but the very soul of humanity. So Devon said, breaking the silence, where do we start? As the rebel captains began to plan, Devon couldn't help but reflect on the irony. They had come to this star system seeking vengeance for humanity. Now, they found themselves fighting to save humanity from its own darker impulses. The makeshift fleet of rebel ships hung in the shadow of a gas giant, using its magnetic field to mask their signatures. On the bridge of the Vigilant, now serving as the de facto command center for the resistance, Captain Devon Burns studied the latest intelligence reports with a furrowed brow. Sir, his XO, Commander Tanaka, approached with a data pad. We've compiled the responses from our broadcast. After their daring rescue of the Dauntless, Devon and his fellow rebel captains had taken a risk, sending out an encrypted message to the entire fleet, exposing the true nature of Directive Hellfire and calling for others to join their cause. How bad is it? Devon asked, bracing himself. Tanaka's expression was grim. It's mixed, sir. About 30% of the fleet has gone dark. We think they're considering their options. 20% have explicitly rejected our message, reaffirming their loyalty to Graves. The rest, well, they're staying quiet for now. Devon nodded slowly. It was better than he'd feared, but not as good as he'd hoped. And what about the Normer colonies? We've managed to warn several of them. Some are evacuating, others are preparing defenses. But sir, we've lost contact with at least 5 outposts in the last 24 hours. The weight of those lost lives settled heavily on Devon's shoulders. Every hour they delayed, more innocent people died. But rushing in without a plan would only get them all killed. A priority alert flashed on the main screen. Incoming transmission from the Intrepid, the comms officer announced. Captain Ray French's face appeared, her expression a mix of excitement and worry. Burns, we've got a situation. A Normer refugee ship just entered the system. They're requesting asylum. Devon's eyebrows shot up. Normers? Here? How did they find us? Apparently, they intercepted one of our encrypted broadcasts. Their ship is in bad shape, Devon. They've got wounded, and they're being pursued by a UHW destroyer. Devon's mind raced. This could be a trap, but if it wasn't. All right, send me their coordinates. We'll intercept. Have the Audacious and Defiant stay behind to guard our position. Within minutes, the Vigilant and Intrepid were en route. As they dropped out of FTL, Devon's heart clenched at the sight before them. The Normer ship was little more than a civilian transport, its hull scorched and breached in multiple places. Behind it, closing fast, was the UHW destroyer Implacable. Hail the Implacable, Devon ordered. The face that appeared on the screen made Devon's blood run cold. Admiral Wu, one of President Graves' most loyal supporters. Well, Wu sneered. If it isn't the traitor Burns. Stand aside, Captain. Those Normers are property of the UHW. Devon's jaw clenched. They're refugees, Admiral. Civilians. This slaughter has to stop. Wu's eyes narrowed. This is your last warning, Burns. Stand down or be destroyed with the rest of the Xeno filth. The transmission cut off. Devon turned to his crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. Battle stations, he commanded. We're ending this here. What followed was one of the most intense battles of Devon's career. The Vigilant and Intrepid worked in perfect sync, their smaller size allowing them to outmaneuver the larger destroyer. But the Implacable was powerful, its weapons leaving scars across both rebel ships. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a new ship dropped out of FTL. Devon's heart soared as he recognized the profile of the UHW Redemption, commanded by Admiral Jiang, the very admiral they'd been trying to contact. This is Admiral Jiang to all UHW ships, his voice boomed across all channels. Stand down immediately. By order of the Joint Chiefs, President Graves has been removed from office for crimes against humanity. Directive Hellfire is hereby rescinded. The battle ceased as suddenly as it had begun. As the Implacable stood down, Devon allowed himself a moment of hope, but he knew the war was far from over. In the hours that followed, as they tended to the Normer refugees and debriefed with Admiral Jiang, the full scope of what had transpired became clear. Graves' actions had split the UHW government and military. While Hellfire had been officially cancelled, many still supported its goals. The road to peace, both within humanity and with the Normers, would be long and fraught with challenges. As Devon watched human medics treat Normer wounded, he reflected on the strange twists of fate that had brought them here. They had come seeking vengeance for a century-old wrong. Instead, they found themselves on the front lines of a fight for the very soul of humanity. 6 months had passed since the day Admiral Jiang's announcement changed everything. Captain Devon Burns stood at the viewport of the UHW Vigilant, watching as the ship approached New Harmony Station, a joint human-Normer outpost that symbolized the fragile peace between the two species. The station hung in space, a delicate construct of metal and light, representatives from both races working side by side to build something neither could have imagined just a year ago. Quite a sight, isn't it? Admiral Jiang's voice came from behind him. Devon turned and saluted. At ease, Captain Jiang said with a small smile. We've been through too much together to stand on ceremony." Devon relaxed, turning back to the viewport. "It's hard to believe how far we've come, sir. And yet we still have so far to go." Jiang finished for him. "I know." The aftermath of Directive Hellfire had been chaotic. With Graves removed from power, the truth of his actions had sent shockwaves through human society. Many were horrified by what had been done in their name, while others still clung to the ideology of human supremacy. The Normers, for their part, were understandably wary. The damage done by Hellfire was catastrophic. Entire worlds rendered uninhabitable, billions dead. Trust would not come easily. "The peace talks start tomorrow," Jiang said, his voice solemn. "You'll be there as part of the UHW delegation." Devon nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Do you think we can really make this work, sir? After everything that's happened?" Jiang was quiet for a moment. "I think we have to try, Devon. The alternative is too grim to contemplate." As if on cue, a Normer ship glided into view, taking up position alongside the Vigilant. Devon recognized it as the Phoenix, commanded by Kel Vath, a Normer captain he'd come to know and respect over the past months. "It won't be easy," Devon mused. "There's so much pain on both sides. A century of hatred for us, the trauma of Hellfire for them." "True," Jiang agreed. "But remember, it was also humans who stopped Hellfire. You, your crew, the other rebel captains. You showed that humanity is capable of more than just vengeance. You gave us all a chance at redemption." Devon thought back to his great-great-grandfather, to New Eden, to all that had led him to this moment. "I wonder what they would think of all this," he said softly. "The ones we lost on New Eden." "I'd like to think they'd be proud," Jiang replied. "That they'd want us to build a better future, not cling to the pains of the past." A notification chimed, informing them that the Vigilant had been cleared to dock. As the ship maneuvered into position, Devon saw human and Normer crews working together on the station's exterior. "You know," Devon said, a realization dawning, "for the first time in my life, I'm not preparing for war. It's strange." Jiang clasped his shoulder. "It's a new era, Devon. We've been given a rare second chance. What we do with it will define not just humanity but our place in the galaxy." As they prepared to disembark, Devon took one last look at the station. New Harmony, a fitting name for this fragile new beginning. He thought of all they had been through, the century of preparation, the brutal execution of Hellfire, the rebellion that had saved both humanity's soul and countless Normer lives. It had been a long, painful journey. But now, as he watched humans and Normers working side by side, Devon felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time: hope. The war was over. The quest for vengeance had been transformed into a mission of reconciliation. And while the road ahead was uncertain, for the first time in a century, the future looked bright. Humanity had waited generations for justice. But perhaps, Devon reflected, true justice wasn't about vengeance at all. Perhaps it was about having the courage to break the cycle of hatred, to reach out to former enemies, and to build something new together. As the airlock cycled open, Devon straightened his uniform and stepped forward. The peace talks awaited, and with them, the chance to shape a new destiny not just for humanity, but for all sentient life in the galaxy. The day of reckoning had come and gone. The day of rebuilding had just begun. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.